as you know, have little side conversations and all of a sudden they're on the screen and some people found it entertaining. Right. So, we are recording and he just did that. But I'm glad all of you guys could come today, and I know some of you wanted to do via Zoom as well, but I know we have some big topics today and there will be a lot of chatter and that's frustrating for the people on Zoom. So we're gonna try this approach. So few housekeeping things. The rest, if you've not been here, the restrooms are over here. There is coffee, water, some rolls. Did everyone sign the sign-in sheet for payroll? I know. Okay, I'm gonna route this around. So if you could do that, that would be great. And everybody got a little battery pack? Yes? Okay. These are a top secret swag. Don't forget to take your cups back. It is the holidays. Might be thirsty. So anyway, but welcome. I'm going to have Mike get us started here with the introductions. And we'll go around and have everyone introduce themselves. So
I think Erica covered everything. I'd like to welcome everybody on this frigid January day. But it is 3 degrees above zero out there right now. But no, I'd like to thank everybody for coming. I know the weather is not ideal, but we do like it when people are here so we can have the face-to-face conversations, and it's just a lot richer than trying to do it through Zoom. But one thing I wanted to remind everybody to this is the place where to bring up concerns, ideas. What would you like to see in our systems? What isn't working? Because this is the group that kind of directs where that project goes, and we kind of consider ourselves partners with you guys. That the stuff you come up with and think should be in there, that's basically what goes into our system. So you covered the bathrooms.
I did.
And I think we'll just do introductions then. All right.
I'm Erica Swenson. I talked to almost all of you at some point, and you're stuck with just me today because Heidi had to be out of town for an appointment, and then Shannon ended up sick today. So you'll be very tired of the one-man show. So bear with me. But welcome. It's really good to see all of you guys.
And I'm Gwen Gillespie, the development director. Been here for a while. Mike, we forgot one thing that dictates some changes. The law.
The law.
Yes. Welcome.
Gwen.
I'm Nicole Weeble. I'm HR coordinator at Swift County.
Trista Hess, payroll and administrative technician for Swift County.
Heather Henrich, HR manager, Big Stone County.
Holly Willendorf, Big Stone County.
Tammy Nelson, Lincoln County. Christina Richmond, payroll at Lincoln County.
Katie Zemer, Human Resources Director at Candy Ojai County.
Lisa Weiss, Candy Ojai County. Melissa Netland, HR, payroll, and everything else in Sonoma County. Jane Govier, Human Resources Manager for Stevens County. Pam Daly, Stevens County.
Dylan Ashman, the accounting coordinator at Countryside Public Health.
Brenda Garcia, an accountant in Lyon County.
Abby Mandelnati, Lyon County.
Annie Anderson, Yellow Medicine.
Brad Lanners, Meeker County.
Jess Wild, Meeker County. Kelly McNamara, Meeker County. Ashley Fire, Grant County.
Hillary Risgroup, Grant County.
David Steen, Norman County.
Sherry Severson, Norman County. Ashley Sweeney, HR, L'Oreal, Williamson County.
Laura Berg, HR, payroll, everything, Travis County.
Connie Winnicky, Murray County. Heidi Winter, Murray County.
Sherry Bacon, Stevens County.
Thank you, and again, welcome. And I know some of you, this is your first meeting you've been to, and you're new in your position at the county. So welcome. The people around you are some of your best resources, for advice, to help with suggestions, all of that. So take advantage of that. If you have any questions, as Mike said, we're here not only help software, but if you're encountering something at your county and you're not really sure how to approach it, somebody else in the room has probably had that, so. Anyway, we'll get started here. And I need a ball to throw at Mike to advance my slides. But first of all, just a few things on some programming updates we have done this year. First of all, the phone app, for the time entry piece. We have been using that in-house at CPT. We've had a couple of counties, ask about using that. And if you are a cost rate county, that also works for the highway. You have the apps the same, but when you go to enter time, you're actually taken to the cost time screens instead of the regular county portal screen. So that's very helpful for that group of individuals that oftentimes are not maybe in the shop, and have access to a computer like your courthouse employees that maybe do. So if that's something you guys want to consider or consider for groups of people at your county, please reach out to us and we can help you get that set up. The Minnesota paid leave account number. I know you guys have been doing that reporting with the Minnesota employment. So we had to make some tweaks with that. So I think that's been working well for everyone. I know there was a few hiccups getting all those numbers in and all of that, but if you encounter anything with that, let us know. We also made some changes for union dues for some of our counties that had multiple type codes to go to one union due, which isn't very many of our counties that impacted that, but if you do, you know what I'm talking about. And then also for your 1095 reporting, we did do the Atrix spreadsheet earlier this year, so you could export that from our payroll into Atrix and create your 1095s or have them create your 1095s and do the 1094 file. The other thing that is done, but you guys don't have yet, is several of you had asked for auditors this round for some year-to-date totals on the vacation sick comp report, so you will see some additional fields when we put this release out to you. A lot of you encountered that, you know what I'm talking about with auditors or no? Yes. So that'll be on your report every payroll and then your big year-end listing. So it'll be both places. Any questions on any of those things? Obviously, we'll be talking more about paid leave and all of that. But what we're also working on is the new legislation, like Gwen said, that dictates, of course, a lot of our changes we need to do in all of our modules. But we'll working on the overtime and the Minnesota paid leave. And we're also working on a portal refresh, which kind of goes along with that portal app. So we're starting with people being able to do some self-service changes like address changes, emergency contacts, eventually W-4. And so once those are done on the portal, the employee can see that that's out there pending. On the HR dashboard, you will see that request come in. The HR person can then review that and approve it and send that then to payroll to be updated. So, and that will continue to evolve, I guess, if you guys have additional things that you would like to add, that would be helpful. Any questions on the programming updates approved, done, or in progress? All right. Year end. I can't believe we're back to year end again, but here we are. So just high level reminders, especially for new people that are doing your first year end and rework. Um. First of all, we're here to help. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to call. We'd rather have you call and ask for clarification than start taking options and then run into a problem. We do send out a very detailed year-end sequence every year that kind of goes step by step. That we refresh for any changes for that current year. But just a few highlights. Your last payroll for 2025 needs to be completely done. Completely updated, all your reports, all the things you need to do for that payroll, that you're finished with that. And that you're done with payroll for 2025, because depending on where your payroll schedule falls, sometimes people want to do it very early in December, like mid-December. Problem is, if you end up having to have a payout of some kind and you've done the reorg, you're into 26. So that is up to you, but that is a risk you take if you end up doing that reorg and closing and you still have, a week and a half left of the current year. I know that's not very likely, but it has happened. So just something to think about. But anyway, back to finish that payroll, all your payroll reports are done, that's completed. Your reports, year-end listings are all generated that you need to go on to that. And that varies, certain counties run different things. And some of our items you can run on the year-end listings through the next year. Next slide. But what's happening is when you do the reorg, system is going in and cleaning up all of 25 and getting ready for the new calendar year of 26. So in the master file, all those quarter to date, year to date, month to date values all get zeroed out. The balances of the current pay and deduction screen are balanced out. And then it's creating all the work files you need for your W-2 process and all of that. Workers' comp, the pair exclusion, benefit status report, if you run that, all those items. And then inactive employees that have turned during the year are moved to history. So they are not in your employee maintenance screen, they're in your master file inquiry screen. So you can still see those. As already implied, there's a lot happening. We're accessing a lot of files doing this process. And no other person should be in payroll, because if you're sitting in a file and someone's trying to do the reorg, you're going to receive an error because we cannot access that file to reorg. So that's just a good practice if you have multiple people at your office with payroll access. And just on that note, if you do, it's really great if you can always be at a menu if you're leaving your desk. I mean, you'd be astounded how many times people call with issues and it's because their coworker is in something and left for lunch and they're sitting there. So it's kind of stuck. Either we have to kill the job, which Gwen and Mike are hitting in, they'll do that, take care of that. But so yeah, just good practice to be at a menu if you're not working on something. And I know it sounds all very scary, but it's very fast. It's like when you do an update to your payroll, it's just going through and fixing those files. Any questions on that process?
You do have backup, so.
Yes, and if something goes wrong, don't worry, we can help.
That's to know, right?
Yes, it's best to know right away before you go too far, but like I said, the sequence I feel is very detailed, very clearly outlined, and like I said, if you aren't clear, we need clarification, and I do have users, I won't point anyone out, that call every year, even though they've done it multiple years, they just like reassurance, and that's fine, we're here, so. All right. Listen, that mouse is tricky. Okay, so then when you are done with the reorg, you could let us know, because we do update your tax table. So we have a set of test files at our office when we receive the new tax tables, which I feel get later and later every year, we update all of those in our test files. We proof them in our test files, and then we just copy and move them out to everybody, so you do not have to re-enter. You will be asked though to proof, because even though we've proofed, we're not perfect, so it's good to be sure everything looks correct. So it's important to let us know so you don't run a payroll with old tax tables. And then once you're done with the reorg, you can work with your HR person if you have your insurances in the HR to get those interfaced over to payroll. So those are ready to go for 2026. Or if you do those manually just in payroll, you can make those updates with the mass change. If there would be any union dues or para changes, that's your responsibility as a county. We usually try to communicate that, and you guys have heard something, I'm sure, from para or the unions. But then you are responsible for updating those accordingly. Any questions on those steps? Yes?
So, the insurance for like 2026, when enrollment is done, I have it ready. I was thinking next week I was going to do what I needed to do to get them in there, but you're saying no. Well,
Yeah.
you have to wait till after.
I'm gonna see something going, no, do not do that. No, that is too, is a very quick process, just running that interface. You don't want to do that until payroll is totally done, because if you're sending that over, you're updating things, and if you've not run your year-end listings, now you have a lot of accurate information, you know what I mean, what was in there for 25. So you do want to wait till after the reorg. I mean, that being said, I do have a couple counties, they're here, that prefer to, they run all their year-end listings, they get all that ready, and all they need to do is the reorg. They will interface their insurances and then do the reorg after that. Reason being, when HR comes across, it goes and inactivates everything in recurring pay. And then goes back through with your new enrollments and reactivates and updates any amounts accordingly. So employee drops a benefit that was maybe type code 452. That will sit like inactive on for all of 26, which isn't a big deal, but some people don't like to look at that. So if you do that reorg, that will get rid of those. So it's kind of a personal preference, but I will say the majority do the insurances after the reorg.
Yeah, I personally like to inactivate them all before the reorg, and then the new insurance is going in from itself.
Right. Any other questions? All right. Then, as far as timing, again, it all goes with your county's payroll schedule. Once you've done that reorg and you've pushed your insurances over and your tax tables are ready to go, you're ready for payroll. But perhaps your payroll's not till the next week and you want to get started on W-2s, or maybe you have payroll that week, so you have to work on payroll and you'll work on W-2s afterwards. It doesn't matter. Everything has been moved to history, so it's your own schedule for timing on what works the best for your deadlines. I will say it's nice if you can do your W-2s a little earlier, because for those of you that have done this for a while, the deadline used to be later that you would do the electronic filing. Now it's all the same, the end of January. So if you are just getting those out to employees the end of January and you are then uploading those W-2s for filing, if there is a discrepancy, you know, your employees really don't have time to even look at that for you. Not saying they all do anyway, but at least you get a little time on your side. So as far as W-2 reporting, those are the deadlines for 2026. To our knowledge right now, there are no major changes, form changes. If that changes, we will update accordingly. The other big piece is the Affordable Care Act reporting, the 1095s. So to refresh what we did last year, Only back step 2 more steps. Previously, almost all of our counties just did paper filing for the 1094 because they were under the 250 threshold. Well, a couple of years ago, they dropped that down to 10, so, which means pretty much everybody has to electronically file. So what we have used at CPT and some other counties have used a vendor called Atrix, which is very affordable, very cheap, out of Grand Forks, North Dakota, actually. You can upload your information to their spreadsheet, and then they will generate and mail the 1095s if you want them mailed. Those don't have to be mailed necessarily either, with the changes last year. But then they will also file your 1094, which needs to be filed. And we did that early last year, and I went through and I did send very detailed instructions on my experience and how to do that spreadsheet with Atrix. First year was a little more bumpy because it was new for me, but it was not hard. I know a couple of you did it. You did it. Ashley did it. Did you guys do it, Norman? Norman? You want to say anything about the process?
I found it easy.
And how much did you spend? I mean, like, look,
God, it was cheap.
yeah,
I don't even remember. It was a small dollar amount.
like
And
$100 probably.
yeah, I think it was maybe a little bit more, but not by, maybe by $10.
Yeah. So I know a lot of you use services and that's fine, but that's why we did this Atrix, this spreadsheet, because some of our counties said, is there another option? Because these vendors are very expensive. Do you have any comments, Ashley, on your process? You did?
Here's what I do.
Yeah.
I don't know. I should not first you with me.
Yeah,
Ours was on the. Yeah.
yeah,
I believe so. Something.
yeah. Yeah, because I think it's like $2 an employee for them to mail and to do the 1094 filing. So that's significantly cheaper from numbers I was hearing, I guess, from other counties, but. Mhm.
And they will send you back, if there is a problem or a mistake or something with an employee, they did send.
Yeah.
Got a message on it. Something that you probably wouldn't have even checked on as a social security number.
Right,
It was right with the last name,
didn't match.
didn't match, so you
Yeah.
can go forward or you can correct.
Right,
But I mean.
Yeah. yeah, because they do a whole edit.
Yeah.
Through that, and then you get an electronic PDF if you would like, so. I think, which I know CPT is very small compared to the counties, but I think I did it for like $30. And it probably took me an hour and a half to do that. It didn't take very long. So we'll send those details again this year. And if you have any questions, but just a quick step on what's happening. And I know I'm kind of jumping ahead with that as well, but you basically import your carrier file into Payroll, which is what you used to do before, a lot of you. And then you go and make any of the changes. Of course, the edits come in on your partial year people that left mid-year or started mid-year, because they didn't have coverage offered the whole year. And once that is all proofed and finalized, there's an option in Payroll to take that out to a spreadsheet, which then that data can be put into this template that Atrix has that you download. So just a little cutting and pasting, and it's pretty simple. So all right, but those deadlines are up there at the end of or those happen in March. So okay. Now the fun begins. Who is tired of Minnesota paid leave? Has even started. Yeah, it's going to be an exciting year. So we have been following this, just like you guys, getting information, and of course, we have step one done, we're already doing the quarterly reporting and, have that all the numbers and the information there. I'm guessing all of you have already notified your employees on your posters, got the signed notice. How many of you decided to go with the state plan? Candy and Yellow Mist. Okay. Everybody else are using MetLife. Okay. That seems to be the big winner for the private. So, and then as far as your premium split, is anyone paying more than what's required? Okay, that was kind of what we heard at the HR meeting and some other trainings we have this summer. Okay. So at CPT, we are also doing MetLife and we are also splitting. And yeah, just those of you on the state plan, are you nervous? No. Well, it'll be interesting. It'll just be interesting all around, but I think MetLife, obviously, they've been doing it for a while, so their demo was good. And yeah, feel like things are gonna be a little easier with some of that. Okay, so we will jump into some of that information. And I know I sent out an email earlier this year, and we will send out another email specifically about this or in our recap, so we don't have to remember everything we're covering today. But within the payroll module, of course, we work on type codes, and certain segments of the type codes are dedicated, like for system use. So we have elected the 2 type codes, so that way all of you are using the same type code. Makes things a lot easier for all of us. So 407 will be the employees portion, and 755 will be the employer's portion. So you will need to set those up. And as far as timing on when you set those up, you can do this whatever. You can do it after the reorg. Obviously, if you do it now and you run your year-end listings, it will be on there. Not that you don't have type codes that aren't being used, I'm sure, on your listings, but just as a note, so which makes sense to you. And then with the type codes, you can set up then your vendor if you are paying the county and then you guys are running those out of financial, or if you're doing that directly to the vendor. So however you handle those payables for payroll, which again is different, and my lunch group was talking about some of that today, the differences at the county, so you can reach out if you have questions on doing that. And once these are set up, and after you have done the reorg, because I know some of you have been anxious to get this out there, we will create a program, I shouldn't say we, we'll create a program that will populate every employee's recurring pay with those 2 type codes. And then after those are set up, we can do a mass change on the rates because everybody's rate is different. And if you were doing a different split, you're able to have that flexibility. For the next one, Mike. So I don't know if any of you have ever used this kind of feature in recurring pay, specifically that code 1 in the far right column, which indicates that it's a percentage of pay. So when we do this mass populate, you will see then the 407 and 755 on all the employees. For now, any new hires, when they are added, those will have to be added to their recurring pay screens as well. And like I said, that's my example from tests, so don't follow my 0.44, 0.67, because that may not be what your rates are. And then after that is populated on every recurring pay screen, we get the next slide. You can do the mass change for insurance or, type code mass change, recurring pay and deduction, which some of you probably used for other things. But you are able to pull up those type codes and put in that amount, and that will find everybody in the payroll system and update that rate. So I know our rates are guaranteed for 2 years, but let's say that rate goes up in 27, I can just come here and make that change and everybody will be updated with that rate. And then, of course, once this is done and you're running that first payroll of the year, which is always a lot of proofing, you're going to want to take a peek at that to be sure those rates are calculating as you're expecting them to on your. And next slide. There we go. So the system automatically does all pays, which pays are type codes 200 and less. If you have items that are excluded from the paid leave, that calculation, you are prompted on this screen on your journal. This is after you have your journal setup page. For those of you familiar with that, run payroll, got all the different information, what pay period it is, the dates, the check date, how you're sorting your journal, all these questions. Then you press enter, this is the next screen. So you maybe see this, it's maybe blank, maybe you have type codes currently on there. But depending on whatever you have at your county, you can put any type codes in that should be excluded. That snippet above talks about what we've been told defines wages. So it's all compensation, so commission, bonuses, benefits, payments, tips, gratuities, all of that. So I know some of you have the cafeteria, maybe meal reimbursement, maybe mileage, maybe cell phone stipends, things like that. So you're going to have to look at what applies to your county and what things should be excluded based on. Any questions on the Minnesota paid leave?
Yeah.
Yeah, here, I'm gonna give you my phone just so.
So we have decided that we'll let them fill the bucket, which is obviously going to be less than 50%, so para does not apply. So is that going to be somehow magically done by you, or do I have to do that? Exclude the para, or what do we do from those pays?
Good question. So with your pay codes, because when you're saying fill the bucket, you're letting them top off, right? So all of you have type codes that are tax type 3, usually if they're a payout if someone's leaving. So yes, you would have to determine, because some counties aren't topping off, so yes, for now, we'd have to kind of figure that out. Any other questions?
So I'm topping off, you mean?
Making themselves whole.
Yes. Yes, and well, that's how many of you are allowing your employees to top off? Yep. That was kind of mixed to at the HR meeting, I guess. So if you are, then we'll have to figure that out with what they're doing, and obviously there's a lot of variables. If are you allowing intermittent, all of that, so. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. Right?
What do you mean by topping out, topping what?
Because your Minnesota paid leave benefit is not 100% of your salary. So if someone is out on that leave and receiving that benefit, you as the employer can elect to let them use other banks. And then get close to their 100% or 100%. Yeah. So that's your decision as an employer. So, and looks like most of you are not. Can I see your hands again? Who's doing top off? So. So those of you that aren't, I'm just curious, why not? Yes.
We decided to wait until CPT had finalized all their programming and or some other company that came out with the software to help with all those calculations. We decided to be a little bit more restrictive to start with because we know we have to change the policy and move forward with the top off. And we just really want to see where the dust cleans.
Else, other comments? Abby?
Kind of same, that we minutes are administration, HR, start, but.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I heard at the HR meeting, especially for some of our clients that have a lot of union employees, another thing for bargaining and just, yeah, seeing where all that falls.
A lot of people had not seen this, but the Department of Labor and Industries had posted that they are reviewing whether they'll have ESST time usage as a top off. It's mandatory. So that determination has still not come out yet. And if it does, then obviously we're gonna have to allow that. So we had changed our sick leave policy to include the use of ESST, same reasons for everything, so that we would just change our policy to include just the sick leave and the ESST time. But we're gonna wait until that comes out.
I had not seen that, so thank you for sharing that. And yes, with the ESST, which we all had to work with a few years ago, and those changes that came along, a lot of people, I think, did kind of put it all into one bucket and make it more simplistic. But like you said, now that might have to change. And yes, there will be changes, because there always are changes, and we appreciate if you guys see anything like that. You guys get different communications sometimes than we do, so we would love if you would pass any of those things on to us, so we try to research and keep apprised of that, and a lot of those things change off, so. Any other comments on this?
So I had seen that the FICA payments will be paid to the county has to pay in their portion of the FICA payments if somebody uses this. Is there any reporting help that CPT will give to put those in?
So what we were communicated from MetLife. Can I have you? Okay, I'm not gonna have you. Maybe can you go the next?
Back.
If I need to wait, I can wait.
Well, I'm just trying to think here.
It's a screen before, right? That one right after that one.
Oh, one more. Thought I put that in there, but. MetLife said they will give us quarterly amounts, and there is a line on your 941 that you may put that in there, because. You aren't really gonna wanna put those in payroll, because those amounts match, the employee portion and the employer portion. Well, that would be really kind of messy at reconciliation. So what is the state plan doing for those? Like, MetLife is issuing like W-2s and 1099s and all of that, and then obviously the employer has to pay their portion. Is the state doing that, or are you guys responsible for doing that? Okay, because that wasn't really clear on stuff I was reading on the state site, so. And why I'm bringing that up is because if you do, we do have those one-time W-2s for like third-party sick, which some of you have probably used in the past, so.
You're talking about the.
Mhm.
Like, somebody that's all times.
For their benefit payments they're receiving, yes,
For the case.
yes.
Sorry, if I did.
Mhm. Yeah. And is the state giving you guys quarterly reports or they said? Okay. Were those of you able to sit in on the MetLife thing? Yes. I was not able, I haven't watched the recording, I have read the like question and answer that came, so, and they had that on there, and that's where I took that from, so.
That was a lot of information.
There was a lot of information on it, I was bummed I had a conflict, but like I said, I have to watch the recording. Okay. Um. And then, let's see. Anything else on the Minnesota paid leave? Well, like everything, as you guys know, you're our only customer, so if things do change, it impacts everybody. So we will be working, and I'm sure there will be some modifications coming along here. We'll see, face those as they come, so. Okay. The other big topic, I mean, so much for a boring year, the new overtime ruling. And lots of information on that and lots of muddy information on that. So what we have been working on is a field in the master file that would keep track of this premium overtime amount so that it's available to be reported on the W-2s for 2026. And then that would be on the check stubs and available for the employees. The other piece, and that's what we're gonna look to you guys for tracking here and getting some feedback is, you know, overtime under 40 hours, and some of you do pay overtime. That is excluded from this deduction. For example, if you have a 35-hour employee and their union contract says anything over 35 hours in overtime, those hours until they reach 40 are excluded. So what, I'll look at my next slide there. I'll go back one more. I wonder if you have my right. I feel like you don't have my most current slide, but that's okay. Notes here. So what I wanted to ask is, as we're working on this, what do you guys have that you're seeing as pitfalls, challenges at your county when you're trying to keep track of these premium overtime hours? Does anyone have overtime for anyone working less than 40 hours? Potentially. Big Stone does, anyone else? You do? Okay. So we are looking at, yeah, some feedback and making sure we have all those things covered. So I know, Heather, can you maybe just say what you have at your county since you emailed that to me and people know what I'm talking about?
Well, per union contract, we have a couple different things. So our family service employees work 37.5 hours a week, and so 7.5 hours a day, but anything over that 7.5 hours for the day is overtime. So even if they never hit that 40 hours, they could potentially have overtime. And then, also with that, our highway and our sheriff, we figure overtime on 40 hours, including holidays, vacation, sick, which according to Fair Labor Standards, you can't count that, so we have to find a way to exclude that, those overtime amounts.
Right. Okay. Lisa, you wanna say what you have at Candy? Cause we're just looking for any oddities.
The public works contract allows for overtime for 8 hours in a day. And we also include holidays and counting towards overtime. So
Anyone have anything else like that at their counties? Okay. So, couple things, and you have that's all one type code today, right? In your systems?
I think our type, if I'm remembering correctly, I think our type codes are set up for overtime based on either the union contract or the division. So I do think that's what I was just telling Katie. I think that's our saving grace is that
They've already
we have
got it
separate
split.
type codes.
So that might be something, for those of you in that situation, we're going to have to look at that. And then, yes, the other, does anyone else have that situation, not 37.5 or under 40, but that you are paying overtime even if there is holiday or vacation or sick hours?
Yep, in my union, my teachers was contract.
Okay. All right. So that's what I think we're gonna have to think about, how we're tracking all those items to go into those buckets, so we have that correct premium amount. Gwen, do you wanna add anything on the type codes and the rates?
Well, it's just that they'll have to be split, it won't have, right?
Yeah. So there's two things when you think about our system with overtime. There is on the type code setup, it's an hours type code, there's hours, amount, or over OT. So there's one flag already we have. And then of course in your batch, you can pick that overtime rate. And some rates are not overtime. I mean, some overtime rates are straight time, but it could be time and a half, double time. So we have a couple things. And then like Gwen said, with those two flags, we may need to look at adding a third flag for those situations. But like I said, we just want to be sure we're not missing anything else out there that you guys are maybe have some unique contracts and so forth. No. Other than most of you do have, you're paying overtime, even if there's holiday or vacation sick being taken. So not the hours worked. And then 2 of you have paying overtime less than 40 hours. Okay.
Or less than 40 hours, or is yours?
It's per day. So
Per
if they
day.
were over their 7.5 hour shift, so it's overtime. And sometimes they comp it, so then. I don't think we have to. I was under the impression that overtime, didn't need to be tracked for these purposes, but we thought that it might be.
Well, what's that? She asked about comp.
Yeah, overtime, same question then.
Yeah,
I didn't think it mattered because when they're accruing.
that
amounts,
hours.
That.
They're not getting paid a
but they're not
premium.
getting Paid a premium when we're.
Yeah.
paying it out.
I know, I thought that initially, no, but then I did get some information from somebody actually just this morning, as he said, this stuff is changing. Anyone else have opinion on that, what they've read about comp time, or if you do overtime? Comp at an overtime rate? How many counties do that? Okay. And what did you read? What were you thinking? It is or is not?
I thought it wasn't, but I could be wrong.
Well, this legal stuff is so easy.
If anybody pays it out.
Yes,
But see, if you're paying it out. Oh, you mean at the time?
No, not at the time.
Because at year end,
Some counties.
we do, at the year end, some of my contracts read, you have to be at a zero balance of your comp. But I mean, we've already, their hours are already a time and a half, so when they pay it out, it's a straight time.
Right, there's no premium
No.
pay, it's
So.
premium hours.
So everything that I've been reading, it's talking more about the pay than it is about hours.
I would agree with that,
I'm
but.
happy if it's that. I'd be ecstatic if it was just that, cause this is confusing.
Right, it is confusing, and again, like everything, there will be changes, and it's not a permanent change either, so. So we're gonna do some more research on that. Does anyone else have any other opinions on that? They've read if anything with the comp, because seems like it's more money versus hours. And I know, yes, they're getting more money, but
It's like my deputies and my dispatchers, well, they work 12-hour shifts. So they're gonna be over 40 hours one week and under 40 hours the next, but their overtime is based on their daily
right,
and not their total.
right, yeah,
So I mean, they fall in a hole for me, a whole different.
Right.
category.
right.
So how are
So-
you gonna do that for your deputies?
I have no idea.
Okay. Cause that was our question too, cause I think most deputies are scheduled like that.
Right.
So are you going to calculate the hours that they're over towards this, or no? Are you gonna look at it as a two?
We did an administrative bank at one time where we paid them 80 hours every week and they would do an over under in an administrative bank.
Yeah, and some counties do things like that with other departments, and those hours go kind of like comp, but just different, yeah. But how this is going to show, I just want to talk about this. So with this new field, for those of you that have done W-2s before, you know your W-2s are pulling from that master file information. This field is there. It is a maintainable field, so if something changes, figure out an amount is wrong, for whatever reason, that can be, we can get that fixed, for those W-2s. But we will look more into the comp and then looking at those flags. So I think, our first piece is separate type codes and probably different columns than on your time sheet for your employees for some of those items. And then that along with the flags to figure out that premium pay. But any other scenarios that we haven't thought about that you have at your county that you're concerned about with this overtime piece? Okay, well, if anything else comes up, please reach out to us. But you will see these new fields by the end of the year, probably we do the release for the other year-end changes. Okay, next slide. So then, what are we doing for 2025? We don't have anything on W-2s because obviously payroll is done for all these years, or all these months to go back and recalculate. So a few things to consider. The online time card listing, you can run just exclusively for your overtime codes to see who in fact has those hours and what they are. You may also run the year-to-date journal for 25 with just those selective type codes, and that may be taken to a PC file. So if you have time and a half, or if you have pays that are double time, you can do a reverse calculation with the Excel to figure out what that premium amount is. The other piece, I think we can work on a custom report generator report to get some of that information. So I know this is kind of a mix. I know everybody has some overtime, some people have a lot, some people have very few employees, and it's pretty straightforward. So if you need help putting together your 25 information, let us know. But that information is there, and Heather's already started. I don't know if Heather wants to chime in.
Well, ours is, like, we have those weird scenarios, so our IT guy took that online time card report, and then we put all of our wages into HR. And so he also took that report so that we calculated, and I don't know how he did any of
Yeah.
this, but he made some cool spreadsheet that shows anything over 40, but it excludes like the holiday and the vacation, and then it just flags those hours and gives them a total for that week.
So Brad, I think you have an Excel challenger. Brad is the other Excel expert
Yeah.
that I'm aware of.
Yeah,
Um,
so I mean, we have a solution for this year, and honestly, that would probably work for us next year too. I just hate to change too much stuff in payroll because it's not
Permanent change.
a permanent
Yeah.
change, but, and, yeah.
Yeah. And for those of you, if you aren't paying, like Heather said, you know, they're paying overtime at less than 40 hours, so they are that going on. And those of you who have the 40 hours, including the vacation sick and so forth, which is not in conjunction with fair labor standards, so that's where you kind of get into some of that. And the online time card listing or the year-to-date journal, those may be run per pay period too. I know it's a lot of reports, but you could split it out that way if you're trying to get a count on the hours, if you're getting into some of those situations. So, any questions on that?
So it won't be on the W-2.
Not for 25.
And I think the law just said you just have to give them a supplemental.
You have to make a good effort to
Yeah.
get them their amount, yes. Because it would be very hard to go back because, you know, that premium pay would like go into next year. That's being calculated when you're running the journal and dumping into that bucket. Well, obviously this law happened this summer. We've already done half a year of payrolls. You can't really do that without some significant programming. And Gwen's very bored, so I'm sure she would love to work on that. Anyway, any other questions or comments? Well, again, if something else comes up, we keep trying to navigate the information just like you guys. So if you see anything new, or more guidance, please send that our way. Okay. All right. So best practices, time cards. I just thought we'd go over a couple things that we try to keep notes throughout the year. If we see questions come up a few times, just to take a good time to talk about this. And for those of you that were at our HR meeting, we covered a lot of this as well. But the big thing is when you are making changes to the time cards on the payroll web menu, any changes in that employee security are not retroactive. So if you have an employee that is changing supervisors and your system is set up that employees can see 2 payrolls into the future and they sat down today and entered all their time for the next 4 weeks, those items are still under the old supervisor if you make that change in employee security. A better option is to use the replace supervisor function, because when you use that, that fixes employee security and any of those future time records. And this happens, so all of a sudden, a pay period's fine, they made this change, and now 2 pay periods in the future, this supervisor can't see this employee's time. And it's because it's under the old supervisor. And I know sometimes that can be scary going through that menu, but again, call us and we'll walk you through. And you can also do multiple employees. So if you have a department head that's leaving and now you have a new department head, you could do everybody all at once, and it's very fast. And then the other thing is for time entry, people sometimes enter comments, which are fine, but those are stored in the I series, and the I series is a little finicky with some symbols like the ampersand, apostrophe, and all of a sudden you can't open that employee's time card, and that's probably what it is. So again, reach out to us if you run into any of that, but any questions on time cards? All right. Then a few things on payroll processing, a few tips here. So when you're in your transaction processing and you have your batches, if you do a 2 and go into the batch, that does 2 things, allows you to make edits and changes to that batch. When you press enter, it also runs an edit. So you might sometimes get an error like invalid rate code, invalid type code, invalid GL. So depending on what that is, we need to work on getting that set up. It's a GL, we've got to talk to maybe the IFS person. Is this the right account? Are the things pointed the wrong way? Either are you using a rate for an employee and there is no rate in that field in their master file? Maybe a type code became inactive or something. So there's various things that happen. If you do a 5, that is just viewing. You're just looking. You're not able to change anything. And your batches stay in like that process status when you do your P to process, and then you get over to the right side, that process. Because what happens is when you are doing payroll and you process, and you have your journal and your proofing, that is building a whole bunch of temporary files that are needed for that payroll process. And you're able to go back and reprocess your journal, and I'm sure no one ever has to do their journal more than once, right? Less than 5? We start have the ball of shame. No, I'm teasing. Some heroes it feels like that, like you're having to do it a lot. So you can keep doing that. You can keep redoing that step until you have your journal how you want it to move on, then to process checks and the rest of the steps. If you get along and you process checks and then you get further and then you're ready to update and you try to update and it says update failed, no checks to process, which sounds very scary in all caps on your screen. That is because someone probably went back into that batch with a 2. Because if you've gotten that far in your steps and there's these temporary files and you're ready to update, when you do the 2, the system goes, I'm making a change, and it deletes all those temporary files and they have to be recreated. And it's a good control because obviously you wouldn't want to be allowed to change something that you didn't ultimately process and then try to update. Your things would not be in sync. Same with getting to your checks. Sometimes it says there are no checks to process. Rerun your journal. So you can go back and look, but if you do have to go back and look, maybe do a 5. That's what we always do. Like if you guys call, we do 5s. If we can, sometimes we have to do a 2, but you will have to go back through your steps. Does that make sense? So I know a few of you had some of those errors lately. Missy's laughing.
Because last night, in my whole world of frustration, I had made some changes and I thought, okay, I got to my checks. I'm like, okay, this isn't working out. I went back in, made a change of that. Oh, all I have to do is do this step, this step. Well, it kept coming up with the same results. And I'm like, I sat for over an hour trying to figure out, I'm like, well, CPT is closed. What am I going to do? Payroll's got to be done. And then I remembered I gotta go all the way back through and reprocess. I've only been doing payroll for 17 years and you think by now I would figure that part, but yeah, that's why I could chuckle because reprocess, that was 11 times of reprocessing before I got mine to go last night.
Well, there are days like that.
Helpful 3 years ago.
Yes, yes. Well, and like I said, some of those messages are scary and you're thinking, oh my gosh, what does this mean? I have no checks. I have checks. It's just, and like I said, if you think it through from a protection of your data and having accurate information, it makes sense that those temp files need to be recreated because there has been a change. So
I didn't
otherwise,
get into that until 2 months ago.
mhm,
I'm like, what is going on?
yep,
I get an error and it's, I think the month Marlene left.
yes, I'm sure it is.
I didn't know what a 5 was.
When we bring these up, if anyone has encountered these, we're not calling you out, it's because it's happened to multiple people, so it just is a good refresher for everybody. Okay, but on that note, it's a good opportunity to, anyone else have any good tips to share? Things they have learned, that they didn't know, things that have helped them, because we do again have some new people. Anyone? Nobody?
To
All right.
utilize you guys as much as possible if you have concerns
Yes,
or questions, because I can email and somebody will always respond or call me. You guys have always been able to fix things if I've had a problem. Hoping we're going forward with no more problems, but
coming up to your end, that is very wishful thinking.
well,
Yikes.
I haven't blown up my system yet this year.
Well, what do we have?
Yeah, it is.
Thank you. Yes, we do. Obviously, that is why we're here. And you are our clients and our partners, and we want to help you and make things easier. And for those of you that are new, if we haven't already been told, your county pays a monthly service contract. You can call us once, you can call us 1,000 times. Your charge is the same. We aren't keeping track, and we'd rather have you call and learn. And we are also available for training. You may come to CPT, which some of you have done. We can come to your county, we can set up smaller Zooms. I realize a lot of you have a distance and maybe you can't afford to take a whole day out of the office for training or have us come to your office for a whole day. You can say, can you walk me through this? We can set up a Zoom for an hour and work on that. So don't be afraid to call. We are here. So
Do you guys have and you might, and maybe I've just never known it, an onboarding program?
well, that's kind of some of the stuff we're working on with this portal stuff, with Mike's nodding, so. We had actually built a lot of that, gosh, was pre-CPT. I mean, we still were privately owned. For a county that had asked for that. But then they ended up dropping the other vendor they were using and then it just never was put in place. So that is something, we have that we would like to work on if that's something you guys would use. Cause I know some of you use like NeoGov, that's who keeps asking you, right?
Yeah, YouGov has been all over Monoman County to bring them in, and I would prefer keeping it with what I have currently with CCT and not go outside.
Right.
And I really do like the onboarding program itself, the concept of it, because I believe that just would lead into everything
Yeah.
else that would be nice to have.
Well, yeah, it saves double entry, takes some responsibility off you for keying errors and some, so. Yeah, yes.
Build it.
All right,
You know what,
onboarding of dreams, I hear it.
what were the piece of it? I know we've been letting, they could put in.
So what we had to put in place before is this particular county had, a vendor they used for their job postings and applications and so forth. Once they had finalized their candidate, they would extract that information and then we would import that into HR. And into the wizard. And so I know not all of you work with HR and maybe don't know what I'm talking about, but it's a wizard with screens of building that employee file, their demographics, their payroll information, W-4, payroll code, insurances, wages, job, step plan, all that good stuff. Which obviously a lot of that is not going to be on the online application. So you could import that data that would be populated in that employee record. And then you would go through the wizard and complete the things that you would need to. So assigning that employee number, what their job title is, their start date, all those pieces. And then, then you'd add the record. So that's what we had in place. And like I said, we were like this close. And then that county got to a fight with the vendor and I guess, fizzled.
There's one further step that you'll go. That is a communication piece, that with the new employee will hire, and then they can do all their their paperwork.
Yeah.
Yes,
I definitely,
Benefits.
yes.
definitely would like to see you guys move forward with the app.
Yes. And that's kind of what we're already talking about with the portal, like for existing employees, then that would be the same kind of piece.
So, Mark, just, don't do it, prior to employees starting. Where they
Yeah,
do, like,
yes,
all
they do.
the stuff.
Yeah.
You don't have that.
It's like
Mhm.
7 to 10. So
Yeah, cause
I don't have that many. I mean, I have plenty of them, but not to justify that.
like
Well,
I
I
said,
think that's where too, when we've had discussions, some counties do have a lot of job postings and hires and other counties. So I wouldn't really use it, so, but
well, and I would just like to keep everything.
yeah,
I would rather not, I'd rather take their ideas,
Mhm.
hand them over to you guys, have you guys put it into a program.
Yeah.
Because I'm already in CPT, so
Mhm.
it just makes it easier than trying to use it.
keep everything integrated, yes, absolutely. Well, that's a great question and a great suggestion, so, anyone else have comments on that particular topic? Okay. Good. Well, we can talk more about that one, but we have been talking about it, I guess, already with those other phases, but.
I think the biggest difference, we had talked about it, what are you gonna do with the portal? It would just be sending the portal
Yeah,
prior to their employment. so
Right.
They could do it that.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. We just would need the employee number, and that would be the hook, what you're planning to assign them, so. Right? You got that correctly? Okay.
Oh. For sign of temporary.
Oh, okay.
And that's why we originally had the two, the HR number and
Yeah, fun fact, why there's an HR number and a payroll number. That's why. Good question, good suggestion. Anything else? And any other questions on processing payroll, just in general? All right. Oh.
Talking about some of your self-serve stuff that you guys you brought up earlier, would like changing Roth or 401k be part of that to send a note?
Possibly, yes. I mean, we want to start with things like we are, and then yes, we can branch into other items on those requests. So if you have things like that you would like to see on the self-serve, please email those things to us so we can be thinking about how we can implement that, or we may need to have more discussion with the rest of our users. Because yeah, you guys drive, like Mike said earlier, all of our changes. Anything else? Now, this is kind of my favorite part of the meeting, when we have a lively crowd with questions and suggestions. And I will start just because we had this discussion at lunch with my table. I won't point out who I was sitting with, and just stare at them, but anyway, one question was, how do you guys handle, you all have your payroll deadline, that time cards need to be approved. So the payroll clerk may start the process and get everything paid timely to their employees. As in all situations, you have a certain group of individuals that always are late, are never getting their stuff in, and it's pretty much always the same people. And that is very common between all of our counties we serve. What do you do with that? Do you wait? Have you not paid them? Do you have a policy to not pay them? And you pay them for what are in, and you correct it next payroll for any hours they were shorted? Because I know it's a lot of pressure, I mean, to run payroll and, you know, if you're already set back because you are waiting for those things, then all of a sudden you run into some other issue, that really stinks. So, anyone have any comments?
That's because I have the issues there.
We start out, we do have it in policy. So what we do is first time, you don't have your time card to me in a timely fashion or by the due date. When I process payroll, you'll get paid what your normal pay would be. You know, you get your normal hours. If you're 80, I don't care if you had overtime or not, and I'll correct it next payroll. That's the first occurrence. If you haven't learned from your first occurrence and it happens a second time, I don't pay you, and I've done that. None of the unions fight me on it because we've got it in policy. And I've had employees say, well, that's not right, that's not legal. Actually, technically, as long as we have it in your policy and it's clearly stated to the employees, our lawyer has said that we are able to not pay them and we can pay them on the next payroll. I mean, it's not that they're never gonna get paid, they just won't have a check that time. I'll guarantee they learn after that time. And I've had 6 employees that it's happened to.
And it's not wrong.
Nope. Because payroll is too long.
And that's just what I was joking about at lunch. I said, Missy's available to come speak at your county board meetings. Right?
Always.
Anyone else have anything, their policy? Are you just too nice? Wait. Anything else?
Have problems.
Well, and it is frustrating because payroll is a big responsibility and the handful of people holding it up are jeopardizing the payroll for the entire county. And that could be catastrophic. And
Well, and when you hold up payroll, if you wait till the very last minute, I had it happen where our direct deposit was a problem.
that's what I mean.
And
So
then-
you have issues you aren't expecting.
So I don't want to be that kind of pressure because then we were at risk of nobody being paid in a timely fashion and that can't happen.
So is that you do have?
Yeah, you got 107 employees looking at you wanting their paychecks.
And I learned that, it was only gonna cost me $100 at my bank if for same day, direct deposit. And that, once I found that out, it was, I figured I didn't wait, I would wait. And I would tell people the same thing that, hey, you're probably, hurting our direct deposit. But once I found out I can do a same day direct deposit for $100. I didn't worry about it quite as much.
Takes some pressure off.
Took the pressure.
Yes. Well, because there are unexpected things that occur. Anyone else have comments, suggestions? How many people have a 2-week lag? Oh, a lot more than I realized. Okay. Yeah, and that's crazy, even more crazy to me. If you have a 2-week lag and you're still behind. I mean, wow. But, okay. Any other comments, questions? Anyone wants to bring up, share with the group?
Oh, y'all.
Okay.
Nothing. I have a question on the overtime one. I thought I read this week and I'm sorry to be wrong, so I'm just starting to look into it a little bit more, but that it's only on the half time. So then if we do the overtime time codes, will that bring on?
So
5.5?
the system will bring, and that's what we're doing in the programming.
Okay.
Because that rate code, because it's not just time and a half, you know, in your overtime, you can have double time and a half, and some of our counties have those. We will be figuring out what that premium pay is,
Just the.
and that will be going into that bucket then, in that line.
What about for 2025 where we have to run?
Yes, so if,
Report showing.
right, and then I think you have to take to Excel and then we can, yes, so you can divide it by the 1.5 or the 2 if it's double time.
Oh,
Yeah.
so there's the calculation one.
Yeah.
But moving forward.
Yes.
Just to be that.
And that's why we're asking what you guys have in your county, you know, any oddities, different things we need to think.
Just confirming that.
Yeah, and that's why it's hard to go back and do 25, because all those payrolls are already done, so.
That's what I thought, I just.
Yep, and I'm pretty sure, the report generator history, by using the transaction versus journal records, you're able then to see all those lines in the batch, so you could run just those type codes. I'm gonna experiment, I've been talking to Heather, I wanna try to run that for Big Stone. And I think then you can see what those rates are, and figure that out from there too. And that also can be taken to Excel to get the actual number. So, yeah, let us know, don't sit and struggle and be frustrated, we'll try to help you come up with something. Any other questions? Mike, do you have anything else to add?
So how are people gonna relay that to employees this year? Since, I mean, it doesn't really say how we have to do it,
It says you have to make a good effort to
so
give them that number.
no one's created it.
Yeah, so we have a little grace this year. Because like I said, I'm sure every software vendor, I mean, that would be when half the year is done, it'd be really hard to go back and calculate all that, so. And especially if you have the less than 40 and you're paying the overtime, so you know, that's kind of a bit of a wrinkle. If it was just all overtime, it'd be real easy, but with those other pieces, it makes it a little trickier. Okay, anything else?
There, you know, one thing we brought up the onboarding stuff. Is there any other pain points that, you know, you would like to see stuff that's about?
Yes, we are always open to suggestions for enhancements and things like that. So please, if you want to bring in something up now, if you want to email us later, call us later, that is fine. Also, I had emailed earlier this year, working on like the actual rewrite for payroll to get that into a web-based. So clearly we're gonna be doing a lot of work, so that would be the time to really think about any other changes, pain points, challenges, things like that. So I really didn't get a lot of feedback from anyone on that email, so keep that in your mind too. And as we start working on that, you know, we'll be sending things out and sharing that. But
And one, that would be great to get suggestions, but one suggestion you don't have to make because you're gonna get it is everything go to Excel. So we know that is a pain point and that's just will be baked into the system.
yes, and some other, the report generator, which some of you I know work with report generator for tax, so you would use the new report generator. And if you use HR, it's very similar to that. I will say the tax report generator, which is what payroll will be more like, is more robust. And like Lynn said, everything very easily Excel, PDF, just different things. So that'll be a really big item for everybody, I think, make life easier, so. Because report generator isn't hard in payroll, but you have to be kind of proficient at it, otherwise it's intimidating but I tell people, don't be scared, you're running a report, you're not gonna break anything, you're either gonna get no data, too much data, or the wrong data. Again, we can help you, and there are many clients that'll say, I don't wanna learn, I need this report. Can you help me make it? And we are happy to do that for you. But anything else? Well, again, really great seeing all of you guys. Thanks for venturing out into the cold. And there are extra planners back there and cups if you want to take for anyone at your county, that would be great. And we wish you a very happy holiday season and peaceful year end for all of us.
Over here.
And
Yeah.
stay tuned for more information, the recap and some of these other things we've discussed. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
I'm so glad. Quiet. And what's.
Right.
They don't have problems with